Hey everybody, Sarah Thrifting for the Nest. Thank you so much for tuning into my YouTube channel. If this is your first time tuning in, I'll tell you a little bit about myself. I am a reseller on eBay and Poshmark, mainly on eBay, and I've been selling online for about 7 years. When I first started my business, I had quit my job about a year prior to be a stay-at-home mom, and my husband has had a corporate job this whole time, and I just needed to bring in a little extra income for my family. But I quickly realized within my first few months that this could potentially be more than a way to just make a little bit of extra money, but to make a full solid income. So in the first couple of years selling on eBay, I replaced my corporate full-time income and have been able to be a stay-at-home mom for the last 7 years since I started my business. My intention was always to go back into the corporate world when my kids started school, but I have not had to do that, and I'm so thankful that I have had the opportunity to sell on eBay. Even though the platform has changed, the reselling world has changed pretty substantially since I began in 2012. And I remember when I came onto eBay in 2012, a lot of people had been talking at that point how much the reselling game had changed since 2005 or 2000. So what I've learned is this business is a constantly evolving business, and we have to be willing to change in order to stay relevant. And so here I am today in 2019, almost 2020. So in just a few months, it'll be 8 years since I started my eBay business. And I just wanted to talk to you guys a little bit about why I started reselling, how I do it, and go from there. So I have no script. I don't script myself well. I also don't want to be looking at notes. I have like a little notepad down here to remind myself of what I'm talking about, but I honestly probably won't follow it. I just want this to be a conversation. So skip ahead to my, if you're a seasoned reseller, this video may be old hat for you. You can skip ahead to look at haul videos and what sold videos if that is more interesting to you. I won't be offended, but stick around if you maybe are not selling yet online and it's something that you're looking into, or maybe you're a new reseller and you're just kind of curious on the ins and outs of reselling. Sorry, I just got a battery warning, so we'll see how far we can get with this video. This is the first time that I'm shooting with my iPhone instead of with my webcam, so forgive the difference, I suppose. I don't know. Anyway, so I want to talk first about how to get started. You open up an eBay account. That's pretty straightforward. You have to decide what you want to sell, how you're going to source your items. I have always been a big fan of sourcing at the Goodwill outlet. It's the pay by the pound store. I understand that not everybody has an outlet store where they live or even close to where they live, so this may not be an option for you. But the key and kind of the obvious, stating the obvious, is to buy low and sell high. That's how you're going to make the most money in this business. Because there are fees, there is shipping to consider. There are other things to consider as far as your overhead is concerned in reselling, packaging materials, all of those things. So find a way to source for lower dollars and sell it for higher dollars. So that is easier than that sounds easier than it is, probably. So one great way to figure out what you want to sell is to use the eBay app. It's free. You can look at sold listings. You can search very generically, you can search very specifically. So this is one of the ways that I taught myself what to pick up at the bins. And I will say it again, I say it almost every video, but I don't tell the bins what I'm going to buy. The bins tells me what I'm going to buy, because I can't necessarily go into the bins and say, okay, I only want to pick up high-end quality women's sweaters today. That's not realistic, because the bins just get what they get, and there's bad days at the bins and there's great days at the bins, and you just can't count on it. So the more you source, the better when you are following a business plan like mine, where most of my stuff comes from the Goodwill outlet store. So, but to know what is good and what is bad, that's something you can prepare for ahead of time. So get on your eBay app, type in something generic, type in seasonally. For example, it's winter right now, so you can type in women's sweater in the search field, and then you can filter your search results by, what I like to do is recently sold, and like what dollar amount do I want to sell between, right? So between $20 or say like $15, between what sold between $15 and $100 in women's sweaters recently. and then you can go through the results. And one thing to note is you're gonna find, I have kind of a photographic memory. So for me, this is how I kind of memorized brands, is if I notice that an item continued to show up over and over again. Chico's, for example. Chico's sweaters are selling quite often for $20 a piece, $25 a piece. That's a great price point, and Chico's is a common brand that I find at the bins. Now, there are higher end items like Chanel that are gonna sell maybe in the $50 to $300 range. I don't know, I don't find Chanel very often, but those are great brands to know, these luxury designer brands. Just know that you're not, most of the time, the bins aren't gonna be filled with a bunch of Chanel. So you wanna be realistic in what you're looking for, and there's a lot of great bread and butter brands that consistently sell for lower dollars, but if you do that over and over and over again, that money adds up. So that is a great way to research brands. I know a lot of people just want a list of what we call in the industry BOLOs, be on the lookout. And yes, those exist where you can say, like, every single time I'm going to pick up soft surroundings if I can buy it for under $5. But there's certain soft surroundings I'm gonna leave because it's not in great condition. I buy Coldwater Creek, but I only buy Coldwater Creek when it's plus size. There's certain brands that are good to buy always, no matter what it looks like, even if it has a hole in it. And there's some brands you have to just be a little more specific about. So I buy bras and I resell them, but I only buy Victoria's Secret and Classique bras and Wacol bras, to name a few of the brands. I don't buy Vanity Fair or Bally, and you might, and that might work for you great. That's awesome. For me, this is just my own personal BOLO list, but these bras have to be in perfect condition. So that's my own standard that I prefer to sell in, and you can decide what works best for you. Another way that you can research solds on eBay is to look at comps. When I say comps, comparable sold listings in your area. So you can also sort by where it's sold. So say you're in Portland, which is I'm in the Portland area, so I can go ahead and look at clothing. I can be super broad, and I can look up clothing and sort by items that have sold in the last 30 days over $20 in a 10-mile radius of my zip code. So I know what is being found and sourced typically in my area. Because regionally, there's certain brands that you're gonna find more of. So in where I live, because I live very close to the Nike headquarters, and there's a lot, Columbia and North Face, so we're big outdoorsy people in the Pacific Northwest, so I'm finding lots of those brands because those are the stores that I live in. I don't find very much Vineyard Vines. Sometimes, but not very often. So, and there's other parts of the country where you are flooded with Vineyard Vines. So these are just examples of regionally how you can search for items to sell online. So when I started my business, auctions were the way to go. In 2012, I only ran auctions, and I only ran auctions for the first 2 years of my business before I switched to a buy it now format. I think I only did like 2 items as a buy it now in that time. So the benefit of auctions is that it tells me what's in high demand. So if I had a ton of views and a ton of watchers on an auction item, and then eventually it gets bid up to $20 to $50, I know that those are items that I want to be on the lookout for at the bins. But oftentimes, I would do this with jeans. Jeans are very specific, as you know, so it's not a very high demand item, although somebody might spend $50 for a pair of jeans, but you're not gonna necessarily have 20 buyers willing to bid up that pair of jeans to $50. So that's about when I switched over to Buy It Now, is when I stopped, when I started sourcing differently. I started sourcing more fashion items rather than more practical winter sports athletic gear, which is kind of how I built my business those first 2 years. So when I first started selling more women's and men's fashion items, I would look up women's jeans, look in a price range, look at solds, find out what brands and styles were often selling for higher dollar amounts. At this point in my business, I really prefer to not sell anything under $10. I will if it's been sitting long enough, but I try to look at that price point, $15 and up, to find out what exactly it is that I'm going to source. I'm at a point in my business now where most of the time I know when I'm shopping at the bins what is going to be a good item and what's not going to be a good item. Every now and then I will do research on an item. Sometimes it's because I've never heard of it before and it feels like a good quality piece, so I want to see how well it's selling on the app. And other times it's because, gosh, I've been picking up this brand for the last 7 years and it's just not selling as well now as it was. So let's get a realistic idea of what comps are looking like. So I will kind of double check myself sometimes with those items. So those are kind of the ways that I do research in this business to decide what is worth buying and what I need to just leave. Now, sometimes I still pick up stuff out of habit because, for example, LuLaRoe a few years ago was hot. It was something that all of us resellers were looking for. We were paying up. I paid $15 for a Carly dress at a garage sale one time, and I did not regret it because I sold it for $70. That is almost impossible now to sell a Carly dress from LuLaRoe for $70. So I will still pick up certain LuLaRoe pieces at the bins because the weight is very light, so I'm not paying very much money for the item. And so even if I pay $1.50 for it and I'm selling it for $14, to me, that's still a good enough return to make it worth it. I don't buy Randy tees at all anymore unless they're super cute. And then even then, I regret it later because 4 months down the road and it's still sitting on my shelf. I'm running a ton of auctions in my store right now for that reason. So even though most of my items are sold as buy it now, I will use the auction feature now to kind of move old inventory. It's never quite successful for me, not like it used to be in the good old days, and probably because I'm just known in the eBay algorithm as a buy it now seller. I do know a few sellers that only still do auctions and they actually do really well with them. But it's probably because they are known in the eBay algorithm as an auction only seller. So part of knowing the algorithms is knowing how eBay likes to send traffic your way. Now, I have not got it all figured out. A lot of it's trial and error. What makes the algorithms happy? I feel like I've spent the last 3 years trying to guess what I'm supposed to do with my business to make eBay send people my way. And that ebbs and flows too, because this is an internet business where there's a ton of items on the market to be sold, and we are vying for our audience to come and look at our stores. So there's a lot of competition out there. I don't mind the competition. If I did, I would not be talking to you about how I run my business. But I feel that there is definitely enough out there for all of us, and there's a lot of effort that needs to be put in to get the results that we're looking for. So as it stands now, I am still very happy with my eBay business. There have been times that I am kind of grumpy about what I have to do to keep the wheels turning in this business, but we have to be willing to change things up, to switch around our strategies in order to continue to see sales like we want to see them. So my husband still has a corporate job, so I have the flexibility and the freedom, even though we do rely on my reselling income quite a bit. I do have the freedom. It's not like we're not going to eat if I don't make sales. And I understand that's not everybody's story. So I don't tend to hustle and grind, so to speak, in my business because I have kiddos that I have at home that I try to balance with, and I'm not always fantastic at it. I know a lot of moms out there might feel the same way that I do, where we're just trying to figure out how to stay consistent with our reselling businesses and still show up for our kids and play the board games and hang out and make the lunches and all the things that moms do. And that is really my daily thing. Daily, I have to decide. I wish I could say, here's how I work my day every single day. I always feel like that's what I want to do. I want to say, okay, from 8 to 9, I'm going to do this. And then from 9 to 10, I'm going to do this. I'd love to structure my day out like that. It just isn't possible with the way that my life is. My kids' activities change. I volunteer at the school. On certain days, I have ministry opportunities that I engage in with my church, and there's just, every day looks different. Every week looks different. So I've learned to work my business when I can work my business, but making sure that I don't hustle and grind, because I did that. I did that for a period of time and I ran myself into the ground. So you will always hear me as the anti-hustle reseller. Although I'm anti-hustle in the sense of, like, don't burn your candle at both ends, but you have to be consistent to make this business work. So that leads me to my next point. In eBay, consistency is key. And when you're not consistent, you will know it, and you don't have anybody to blame except for your lack of consistency. So what I have found is as long as I have 5 to 10 items going up daily, then I will still see a steady stream of buyers coming to my store and shopping with me. When I stop listing for a period of time, I will see a decline in traffic in my store. One thing I have also found to be imperative is to accept offers when they come in. Now, some of you may not have the best offer feature active on your store, but I highly, highly recommend it because eBay loves engagement with the audience. So even when buyers send you a lowball offer, engage, send them a counter offer if you're not making money on it. Or sometimes if your cost of goods is as low as mine is when I shop at the bins, you can afford to accept a lowball offer, and then you'll be pleasantly surprised when you'll start seeing more offers come in because you accepted that offer. So eBay loves an active seller. So stay active with your listings, stay consistent with listing your items, and on those days that I can't list, I know it's not as good, but I will end items that are stale and then do a sell similar on them, change up, freshen up my keywords and my title, change up my pictures if I need to, and then sell similar or relist them. And that helps too. It's still activity. I feel like it's not as highly favored as a brand new listing. But those are kind of the ways that I keep my store moving and active. So those are just a couple. I know that this train of thought kind of was all over the place, but these are some of the common questions that I get about how to run an eBay store, how I run my eBay store over the time period. And I'm sure I've missed a ton of questions that people have asked. I would love to talk to you about how I store my inventory, kind of what my listing and photography practice is in my business. So I will do that in another video for sure. But wanted to just kind of lay out some of these frequently asked questions, talk to you a little bit about my reselling journey. Okay, so what else do you want to know? I would love to hear from you. Please leave comments in the comment section. I try to engage in those and answer questions, and I may even come up with a new video idea if you have any ideas of things that you would like me to answer. I probably won't have another haul video this week. It's one of those crazy weeks that I won't be able to get to the bins until next week. But go ahead and leave me a thumbs up button if you like this, if you want more content like this. You can leave me a thumbs down if you weren't super excited about it. That's okay with me. Feel free to follow me over on social media. You can find me on Instagram at Thrifting for the Nest, and you can find me on eBay on my eBay store at The Seagull Nest. So thanks so much for tuning in today. I so appreciate it, and I will talk to you next time.